It's the day before training camp, and I'm going to give you the three biggest storylines. And we're going to start it out talking about Trevor Lawrence. We'll do that today here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, yeah, it is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you tap into that location so you do not miss an episode of the show like the one today. Whether you watch or listen, we will be there. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. A special shout out to the everydayers who join us each and every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you, and we appreciate you spending your time here with us. If you're new, I'll give you a reason to come back. So here's what we do. We always tell you where we're going to end up on the show. We're going to end up talking about offensive bullies on the line. Those are the guys in the trenches. We are going to, in the middle of the show, tell you why we are following Travis Hunter. I'll explain that when we get to it. But first, we got to start with Trevor Lawrence is healthy, and everyone needs to focus on Trevor Lawrence because this is the year. More than any other season, I believe Trevor Lawrence will answer questions. He will find solutions, and the narratives will change. That's my opinion. But they have to. This has to be the one. He even said it. He was on a podcast recently, and he talked about how, hey, man, I'm going into my fifth year. Basically, he says it's time to put my big boy trousers on and grow up and finally have all of the good things that he wants to do kind of line up, right? And it is super, super important that we understand and recognize that he knows that. He knows it. For all of us that have either defended Trevor Lawrence or have had to make what we call, I won't say hard decisions, but tough. You had to come to tough conclusions that you didn't want to. And that is that for the most part, if you look at it in a vacuum, it's been disappointing these first four seasons with Trevor Lawrence because of the expectations and because I feel like it has just been an absolute waste of the early years of a guy's career. Now, it doesn't mean that he can't recover. It doesn't mean that Trevor Lawrence can't all of a sudden get back on the bike and do things the way that we all thought that they were going to be done. And I know some people are saying, well, Wig, you sound like you believe what Richard Jefferson and not Richard Jefferson, Richard Sherman, and you sound like you believe what the Shady McCoys are saying. No, I don't sound like I believe it, but what I'm telling you is that I can't refute it wholeheartedly. I only differ because I understand the reasons more so for what we have been seeing. And I don't think I see what they see either, but I understand the reasons for it. I understand the misfunction or the dysfunction. I've been right here with my finger on the pulse of the team. And Trevor has some reasons why things haven't gone well for him. He has some reasons why he hasn't lived up to expectations. Some of it does fall on him a little bit. There's some narratives out there I want to debunk. There's some people that said that Doug Peterson, and I don't know if he said it or not. I got an idea he probably did, but that he kind of hinted that Trevor needs to work harder. And you also have to give a guy a reason to work. I mean, Trevor shouldn't work harder at doing the wrong stuff y'all had him doing. Trevor Lawrence is not where he is because he didn't work hard enough. The coaches weren't good enough. People respond to what you dish out, right? There was some major dysfunction going on. I want y'all to remember now that Shad Khan stood up in front of this team at the beginning of 2024 and said, this is the most talented Jaguars team he's ever had. Somebody told him that. I don't believe he just automatically assumed that. But if they did, this team went 4-13 for a reason. I didn't think that it would be that bad, right? So now we have the dawn of a new day. We have a new coaching staff with Liam Cohen and the crew with Coach Greg Udinski, the offensive coordinator. new offensive line, new weapons. There's new hope. And I'm going to be cautiously optimistic because I stood there in training camp last year and watched from the end zone and watched the defensive backs and watched Chris Richard, the coach, operate. And I said, this is different. They're doing something different. Guys are moving all at the same time. It's a different enthusiasm. And they end up finishing 4-13. So we're going to make sure that we measure it out a little bit and at least sort of explain to you the things that we're going to watch in training camp. The thing I'm going to watch is Trevor Lawrence. I want to see it, man. And it's going to be hard without watching opposition because Trevor always looks good in these workouts. Last year, there were some passes that there was one day Dewey Wingard got him twice. And I was just like, it's not good. They're going to start talking about you real bad. And that's exactly what seemed to happen. And the year kind of went like that, right? The year kind of went like that for Trevor. I want to see more consistency, less ups and downs, less highs and lows. But the main thing I want to see is him stay upright. And it has a lot more to do with other people than himself. One, he has to stay out of danger. He has to slide. He has to stop spinning over his right shoulder, going left and turning himself so far away from everything and not being able to recover. And then just throw the ball away, man. Don't take any shots towards the sideline. He's a long, gangly, angular dude, man. So it's like when you get a shot on a 6'6" quarterback, man, it's kind of almost a freebie. And you don't want to give up too many of those freebies. But he has to stay upright, and he has to remain absolutely healthy if the Jaguars are going to get to where they need to get to this season. The offensive line has a lot to do with it. Getting those answers pre-snap has a lot to do with it. We won't really see any of that until we get into the preseason games and they get live competition against other people. I'm sure Trevor's going to be protected this entire time, but it's still worth watching him. It's still worth watching how he responds to having all of this speed, all of these weapons. Can he get rid of or work out the kinks in training camp to make sure that he gets rid of throwing that ball high, throwing the ball super, super high in the beginning of the games? This is where that stuff is going to get fixed. His footwork, his consistency with his passes, where he goes with the football, how confident he is in his guys. What does he see? What does he trust? Is he going to learn how to play without believing he's about to get hit? Is he gun shy? All of those things are questions that I want to answer, and we are really, really close. We are one day away from hitting training camp and starting to get some answers to those questions. The other thing, I'm gonna get to number 2 right here, following Travis Hunter. I want to see where he is. I want to see how much time they spend with him on offense and defense, and if it wears him out. I call him Batman, man, because it just seems like he's a ball of energy and he never ever runs out of energy. We'll discuss that here in segment 2 of Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Rougier. Guys, listen, you've probably heard of Viagra and Cialis, and maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougier Ready. Rougier Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougier's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control whenever that moment is right. And y'all know what I'm talking about when I say that moment, man. Sometimes those traditional options haven't worked, and Rougier may be the answer for you. Head to Rougier.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL and use the promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougier website for full safety information. All right, man, we moving and grooving and rolling along here on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. Thanking you again for spending your time with us, making us your first listen as we prepare for training camp, which is less than 24 hours away. And I will be there, boots on the ground, no fan in my hand, just braving the heat like everyone else, giving you all the top content and coverage we can from training camp. Travis Hunter. We talked about Trevor Lawrence. Now we're going to get to Travis Hunter. The three big storylines and things that I'm looking out for. We're going to spend about 10 minutes on this one because this one's a big one. Travis Hunter, his draft status. He set the league by storm. Travis Hunter also was included in the Locked On NFL Top 100 at number 67. And while I appreciate my colleagues for doing it, I think they're absolutely crazy for putting a rookie in the top 100 and he hasn't played it down. But that just shows you how people think and they believe that this kid is going to impact the National Football League. The one thing I know is that he won't be scared. He ain't going to have nerves. He won't be affected by how fast everything goes. He won't be affected by any of that. The thing that I fear with Travis is he is going to, on offense and defense, learn how important technique is, and he's going to learn that in training camp. He rounds out some of his routes when he's running on offense at wide receiver. He's going to learn how to not do any of that stuff, and it's going to become second nature to him. He just hasn't spent a whole bunch of time doing one thing over and over again and mastering those reps. The new DB coach said that he didn't necessarily need to have physical reps on defense as much as he needs the mental reps. We'll see how that works out. He told us that during the sit down. We'll see how that works out. But I'm interested to see how where he spends his time, and how much time he actually spends flip-flopping in front of us, the media, and the people who are watching camp. Usually when you go out there, when we went out for mini camps and the OTAs, whatever jersey he came out in, that's the one he stayed in. If he was in white, that means he was playing defense. If he was in teal, he was going to be on offense all day. I think he probably was more with the offense than he was with the defense. And that is to be expected because there's probably a bigger playbook to learn, a little bit that comes down to more timing, whereas defense, they work together too. But defensively, when you're a defensive back, it's about everybody doing their job and not trying to do too much sometimes, right? So the interesting thing for me is going to be to watch what they do with him. And then it's not just him that this affects. I want to know when he's on defense where he is. But the second they move him off of defense, I want to know and see who they have lining up in his place, because that's going to tell us a lot too. Whether Jordan Lewis is always in the slot or whether he starts outside, that's going to be a big deal. Is it Jarian Jones or is it Monteric Brown, who's had a really, really good camp? And then if those guys are playing well, how much does that affect them not using them on that side of the ball as much? And reverse it. Brian Thomas Jr. is wide receiver 1. Diami Brown is making $10 million this year, and they expect a lot out of him, right? And he's looked very, very good. How much do those guys and their numbers and their success, how much does that allow the Jaguars to say, you know what, we're all right here offensively. Let's move him and play him more on defense. Where is he going to be needed the most? Now, I don't want to make it sound like Travis Hunter is going to be like this little utility chess piece, because I think they're more intentional and more deliberate when it comes to him and his expected impact. So I'm really believing that they are not going to necessarily react and respond to what's going on with the other players unless those guys can't get it done. Now, if they're having problem covering people, if they're having any kind of issues in the secondary, I would expect them to say, look, we can use him on offense a little bit, but he needs to go over there because we're playing against the team. Let's just say the Bengals. We're playing against the team, and, you know, they're eating these dudes up right now. We need somebody who can compete at the point of attack and at least athletically make a play with Jamar Chase. That's where you're going to see Travis Hunter, because that's why you got him, right? And then if they start struggling offensively and they need to just be able to get a quick out going or get something to put the ball in his hands to get a first down, you're going to see him on offense. how they are going to employ him in the regular season really starts with how they train and use him in a real training camp environment, in a real setting where everything is about to get real. This is where I want to see Travis Hunter strive and thrive. This is where I want to, see if that frame that one of my buddies who played big time college ball and was like an All-American, he said, I'm just worried about that frame, man. That frame is something else. He's narrow built and all of this stuff. And the dude basically told me he wouldn't be concerned with it if he was just playing one side of the ball. He's only concerned with it because he's going to play a whole bunch of snaps on both sides of the ball. He'll probably lead the league in snaps. And that won't surprise anybody because he's one of the people that's playing both ways. But I think he's going to get a heavy workload here. You have to. You just have to. You got to use all of that energy, man. You can't just sit out there and use this dude as a decoy. So how much they get him the ball, how it's received, what does it mean for Brian Thomas Jr.? Hopefully what it means is there's no battle or there's no infighting or there's no, I don't think that's going to happen at all. But you know how people are, man. Folks love reality TV, and then people will start saying, well, can Brian Thomas Jr. ever be who he's supposed to be if Travis is getting all the balls and all of this stuff? As long as they win, I'm telling you, none of that stuff is going to come up and none of that stuff is going to matter, because that means that everybody is getting their due. Everybody is getting their shot. Everybody's making an impact. And when that happens, you can't do nothing but think that it's going to just make the whole thing rise up, right? And that's what we're trying to do. I keep forgetting what is that thing they say when something happens, it rises all tides or some foolishness like that. But everybody doing their job, everybody making a huge impact on the team. Those are the things that I believe that are going to help propel the Jaguars to have a really good season on the field and in the win-loss column. So I'll just got to wait and see, man. But those are the first two. Travis Hunter is number two. Trevor Lawrence, how he is going to get used to his players and his situation, following Travis Hunter, how they use him. The third thing is going to be one of the first things that Liam Cohen talked about when he took this team over. He says when we break that huddle, we need to establish the run, and they need to see us coming when we break that huddle. And if that's going to be the case, then the first thing he mentioned is going to be the third thing that I talk about here today on Locked On Jaguars, because it's that important. We'll get to it in just a second. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You've already followed the action. Now, why not make it more thrilling with FanDuel? You can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I mean, Scotty Scheffler, man, he's on a tiger-like run, right? He even had me watching golf yesterday on a Sunday. I'm telling you, he is that good. Make sure you check that out and go to FanDuel, because if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today's show is also sponsored and brought to you by BetterHelp. Workplace stress is at an all-time high. 61% of the global workforce is reporting higher than normal stress levels. This summer is the perfect time to take small steps to focus on your wellness and manage the challenges that come with your workday. Of course, most of us can't just quit our jobs and take endless vacations, but we can start small, whether it's getting outside for a few minutes, adding movement into your day, or talking to someone who can help you navigate life's challenges. That's where BetterHelp comes in. I know it helps me. Sometimes you can get overloaded with work and home. You need to just take a few minutes to exercise a few things that'll help you get back on track. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Moving and grooving here on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. The day before training camp 2025. I am super stoked and excited. Remember now, we're daily here. The vacation is over. The summer break is over where I could get away with not doing an episode here or there. Nope, we're right back in your mugs, in your face until the end of this season. All the way, hopefully, through the Super Bowl, but at least through the draft, right? There ain't no more breaks. It's all gas, no breaks. Even if I'm on vacation somewhere on an all-inclusive, y'all gonna see me in a palm tree behind me doing these shows because it is your team every day. I'm glad that we're finally here. I'm glad that we're finally gonna get to the part of the season where it's everything that they do feels really real. You'll be a few weeks away from a preseason game, and the toe's gonna hit leather. Toes going to hit leather, and it's going to feel very good, whether it's the NFL or college, man. It's just that this is the time of year I love so much. One of the things that I have to look out for, the third thing of the three big storylines, is the offensive line. To me, the offensive line in the past has been the biggest bugaboo of the players, of the things that are on the 53-man roster, of the roster. I think the biggest bugaboo before was Trent and Doug and all of those guys. But as far as the talent on the field, the biggest issues, in my opinion, have come from the offensive line. And this is why when we talk about Trevor and we talk about ETN and these running backs, you got to give them a little bit more grace. Even when you talk about the defense that has to spend too much time on the field because the offense can't sustain drives and the defense gets worn out. The Jaguars offense, I used to call the Tennessee Titans ingrown toenail, just always bothering you. The Jaguars offensive line was like having a big piece of gristle stuck down in your tooth and you cannot get it out. A toothpick, a placker, it just doesn't work. And that's just the way that this offensive line felt to me. It just felt like you got something stuck in your tooth, and you leave it in there long enough, you're going to have some problems. You can't talk to nobody with that meat that's been in there for 2 weeks stuck in your tooth, and it hurts and it feels bad, right? Well, that's how the Jaguars offensive line was. It's like it's there, you know it's there, can't do nothing about it. You just got to chew gum and try to work around it, right? I'm glad they went to the dentist and they uprooted all of. They got a root canal, man. That's what they did. They got all of that stuff out of there. And now they got a whole new set of veneers and they're beautiful. They got all these implants and they're just smiling, right? This is what this is supposed to be like. Competition, big physical people that move people out of the way. They had to just totally start this thing over and inject all kinds of talent. They got 4 free agents. They got 2 guys in the draft. They added 6 people to that room. I always tell y'all, and I've said this in the past, what they do will answer all of the questions that you have. What they do and what they address, and the new administration here, will tell you all you need to know. Now, go back. In the past couple of years, they drafted Anton Harrison 2 years ago, right? They signed Ezra Cleveland, or they traded for Ezra Cleveland, a 6th-round pick. He's still the starting left guard. Outside of that, they ain't done much. You get a new staff in here that looks at this team and evaluates this team. You get Executive Vice President Tony Baselli come over from the radio booth. You bring the new coaches in. I'm going to tell you how this process works. They look at the tape. Before they start adding anything, they look at the tape. They added 4 offensive linemen in free agency when they saw what that mess was on the field. And then they added 2 more in the draft. What they do will tell you whether or not what I was talking about before is true. They didn't add 6 nothing to nothing else or any other group on this line. I also told you they didn't need no 3 technique. They didn't address it. Did they? No. They addressed the offensive line. I told you they needed more than 1 fast guy at wide receiver, didn't I? Yes, they addressed that. The answers to all of those questions and things that we were fussing and arguing about It's exactly what I told you. This is what they thought as soon as they came in here and looked at it. And then it makes you just wonder, what the hell were Trent and Doug doing? Okay, we ain't got to do that. It's a whole new season. It's a whole new day. We got a whole new training camp coming up. But I'm watching. I want to see. I know what a bad offensive line looks like in training camp. And I've been transparent to tell any and everybody. That's why anytime I can, I'll ask a former lineman. I'll even ask Baselli, or I'll ask someone that knows more than me. Leon Searcy, my man George Foster. I've hit him in his DM, and George probably tired of me too. But I'll hit his DM up and be like, "Hey, what about this?" I think I've even maybe reached out once or twice to Mitchell Schwartz. Back in the day, I used to ask LaCharles Bentley questions. So my thing is, it's the one part that of football that I probably need more clarity and understanding. And don't y'all wish other people in sports will admit what they know and what they don't know? Because that's the one part. I was never big enough to play on the offensive line. So I don't understand that. I probably have done everything else in football. I played defense. I played linebacker. You notice I say played because they kept pushing me to other positions. I played defensive back. Lord knows they didn't want me there. I played quarterback, wide receiver. I did not play running back, but I kind of understand it. But the thing is I do know this. An offensive line that cannot play will make an entire football team look like the Bad News Bears, even though that's baseball. But you get my point. They'll make you look awful. I don't care how good your skill position players are. I don't care how good your defense is. If the offense can't block well enough to sustain drives and get first downs, guess what's going to happen? That defense is going to get tired. That defense come into the game looking like Beyonce and leave looking like, yeah, something else. I ain't going to mention nobody's name because that's rude, but you know what I mean. You can't lie with a bad offensive line, man. You got to get it fixed. And they flooded this thing with 6 new bodies because they know it needs to get fixed. We're going to go through training camp and watch and see how they get it fixed. Now, the interesting part to me is when do they become really, really physical in camp? Because you don't want to get banged up, but you can't pretend to be physical. At some point, you have to display it, right? It has to be something that's a second nature. It's kind of got to be who you are. And if you can't go into a boxing match without sparring. So I'm really wondering if at some point this training camp is a little bit more physical in certain spots than we've seen in the past, or do they wait to do that once they start trimming down how much of practice we can actually watch? So that's something that I want you guys to make sure you keep an eye on. The 3 big storylines for me is Trevor remaining upright and adapting to the situation. Following Travis Hunter is number 2, where you're going to be able to see how they move him around and how much time he spends with each and every group, and what is the response to that, to him being on the other side of the ball. How does the side where he's not currently at, how are they going to play without him? And does that determine whether or not they start pushing him to one side or the other more than they want to? And the third thing is the offensive line, the bullies of the offensive line. You can't pretend and play physical. You have to, when I say play, I mean pretend. I don't mean play as in go out and play. That's what we need them to do. But you can't pretend to be physical. And I'm just very, very eager as to how they're going to be able to get to that and whether it's not going to change the way they practice. All right. Be back tomorrow with another key episode. It'll be after training camp. So there'll be an afternoon edition of Locked On Jaguars tomorrow, because I'll go out at camp first and then come back and tell you guys exactly what I saw, because it's your team every day. And that's what we're here for. We'll see you next time here on Locked On Jaguars.